Hi, are you ready for me?
Yes. Hi.
Oh, hi.
But yeah, I wanted to talk to you about my documentary. We never really went into depth about the
My
commercial.
experiences,
Yeah, we didn't ever really talk about it.
my life as a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's being having a life that you're victimized. I was victimized for many years, and I wasn't the only one.
Grammy, I'm talking about the commercial sexual exploitation. Like, I don't mean child molestation.
Well, I didn't know that. It's commercial. No,
Yes.
this one's not commercial.
I'm not talking about child molestation.
You're not? Okay.
No. I'm talking
It's all the
about.
same. It's all the same. It's not. It can't be
No.
any different.
Yes, it is.
Nobody paid money, but it was like being held as a slave. And when you talk about being paid, we all paid the price. We all did.
My inspiration to do this stems from like way back in my childhood. Personally, like just feeling like there was no hope for me to do anything. I was in and out of shelters from the time I was like 7 till 17. If we don't become involved, it's not going to stop. It's really sad because you would think that you could just throw away a perpetrator into prison and that would be it and the problem would be solved, but that's really not where the problem begins. The problem begins in everybody's childhood, everybody's home. I guess throughout my life I've just been watching people just overcome a lot of emotional trauma. These children are so valuable. If you were to meet a survivor and hear their dreams and their goals, and it's like some of these people are just really beautiful.
Abortion led to destruction. I was so very young, didn't know who I was. Self-esteem was so low. Yeah, didn't know where to turn. I felt misunderstood. A fatherless daughter trying to make it in the hood. Everything was not all good. Yeah. He had to go caprice. I wanted to know who he was. So I spent time trying to find him. But he found me, said he wasn't a pimp. Yeah. Yeah, but we can get some money real quick. All I had to do was rob a few tricks, but the lies he told would slowly unfold. Yeah, and my heart would break. Yes, I sold my soul, my mind, and my body. Yeah.
Make it higher, like taller.
Okay. This will show your whole body though.
The Jordans, yep. That's when I was working at Access 2. When I had the little, when I was 16.
No, that was
And
Miss
now I'm a
Attitude.
diva.
That's Miss Attitude.
Now I'm a diva singer.
Yes, you are a singer. And then as you got older, what was it? Going to school was a problem for you. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You just didn't. I don't know. You had an anger problem.
I had a very, I was very
fighting a lot
mad.
at school.
It had a lot to do with childhood stuff that I was suppressing.
I also remember trying to figure out what's wrong with you during that time, and you were nothing.
I was very nonchalant.
I'm like, how am I gonna help you? You don't have to. I don't need your help.
I think that's why I had to get into prostitution and that lifestyle, so to humble me, to make me care. Because while I was in the lifestyle, of course, I built walls that nobody could break. But afterwards, in the dream and the incidents like that, it really brought my emotions up, and it really helped me realize why I felt the way I felt and why I was doing the things that I was doing.
Well, life is full of surprise and disappointment, so you have to roll with them and get knocked down and get back up.
Get back up. Dust your shoulders off.
Okay.
Wonderful. Are you guys helping people and telling people to come eat and get goodies? ¿Sí? ¿Sí? Okay. ¿O te lo vas a poner ahorita? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. People, can you get back in line for the people that would you like a condom? Okay. How you doing? It's very good. Cranberry. You hungry? You want a gift bag? Okay. You want to come over here? Would you like a condom?
No, I've been told.
What do you feel are the most common misconceptions on this issue, being that it's so broad and, you know, different terminology, different people involved, different organizations, different perspectives even within survivor, victim, you know, all of these kinds of things, you know.
Excellent question, and it definitely needs to continue to rise up. The biggest misconception, in my opinion, is that it's a choice. Many people close to me or that I know still believe that it's a choice. So I'll repeat, it's not a choice for anyone that's a child. There are people that force people into doing this, oftentimes men. There are people that manipulate young women in the forms of endearment or relationships. And anyone that's a young woman, if they're not in this generation, just think about when you were 12 or 13, how it feels to be wanted, how it feels to have a boyfriend or just a male to tell you, oh, you're pretty, or you're beautiful, or you're gonna be my girlfriend, and this is gonna be the best thing ever. So when these dreams are sold to these young women, and that's all they know, is different family structures or maybe lack of foundation, they hold on to that. Just like when someone's in love, you do anything for the person that you're in love with. So the biggest stigma, back to answer your question, is that it's a choice.
We're at a generation where girls know their mothers have done it, whether it was to get dope, to get high, whether it was to pay bills, whether it was just to have some things, whether she had a pimp or not. And there's a lot of young girls that just get with friend girls and they post ads of themselves and they make their money. Then they convince themselves, why would I work a 9 to 5 getting paid $8 an hour when I could make that in 10 minutes? And they do it and they find nothing wrong with it. Now the misconception is that it takes a man for a woman to go solicitate herself. That is the complete wrong way to even look at it. Obviously, this one person exists out there for them to continuously say that they're forced into prostitution. And I think they use the word forced because they're minors. Well, if you took better care of the minors in the world, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have to say that they were forced into something like this. But when they're thrown into foster home, group homes, have a lot of different social issues and mental issues, home issues, self-esteem is the biggest thing. They're not being forced, they're making choices. And the choice they made was to, and in almost all of their eyes, is to get money. She doesn't see it as her temple or, you know, disrespecting herself or anything, because you have to think of the sexuality rate that's going on and how much sex is going on, you know, freely. They'll honestly tell you, the kids I work with will honestly tell you, I'd rather get paid than be out here slutting for free. And they're very serious.
I am here today to voice my opinion in aspects of this so-called human trafficking. People go off of what everyone says. They don't actually want to hear the truth from the people in the situation that are actually working. I grew up in foster care from age 2 to 18. I had a rough life as far as being singled out in almost every family I was placed in. How I got involved in working is when I needed extra money to provide for my child and maintain my everyday bills. Everything was piling up, so I took it upon myself to find a way to get a steady income. Foster care has affected my life in many ways. I'm always scared that anyone around me will abuse me or molest me. Foster kids need more support as to giving them a sense of meaning, giving them a sense that there are people who actually want to help them and take care of them.
First and foremost, stigma needs to be erased. Again, this is not a choice for someone that's under 18. And you know what? I would like to speak to more people in depth that believe, the contrary. I haven't met anyone that, said it's my choice. I'm willing to do this. So if there's someone out there that, I don't know, perhaps you guys have interviewed or talked to or said that this is a choice, that they're waking up every morning and they're choosing to do this. I know a few young women, 16 up in their 20s, that they feel because of their current economic situation, this is something I have to do. The way that I think, the way that I do most things with the different workshops and young women that I work with, it all goes back. You are in charge of your own destiny. We hear it all the time, but it's actually putting those words and those thoughts into action. You don't have to do anything. We actually live in one of the only countries in the world where as women we have rights. So if you have that strong foundation, if you have the self-esteem, if you have that support system, you could do other things. You don't have to sell your body.
I mean, there's a lot of factors that I look into. But once they finally come clean and tell me, it's like, well, what do you get from that? Some of them are so hardened that me trying to convince them to get a job and leave it alone, they're not going to do until something bad happens in that situation. Whether it be them being robbed, them being arrested, being beat by a date. I don't get it until I get he pulled a gun on me, told me he was a police officer, showed me a badge, made me do this, he didn't pay me, and he threw me out the car. And now they're crying, they don't know what to do, and it's like, I feel bad, but I can't feel bad, because if I knew before, I already told you, this is the things that happens. Because like I said, a lot of times, they might be done with that for about a week or 2 or 3 months, maybe a month or so, but they might just go right back because it's the easiest way to generate money. It's all about money. So all I can do is be there for them, tell them pray about it, and to keep strong and know that, regardless of whatever's going on, whatever happens with you, whatever bad choices you make, I still am going to be there. I'm not going to support your bad choices, but I'm going to support you to try to work your way out of any bad choices you've made. But you still got to pull yourself out. It's on you. It's all about choices. I teach them it's choices. What do you choose? What do you want to do?
I think that the problem inherent in the news media in particular is that it tends to not just generalize but skate over things by necessity. I mean, I started in commercial radio and we had to tell our story in 20 to 30 seconds. And when you do that, you miss a lot of nuance. And that's a problem, slightly less so, but still a problem in TV, and still slightly less so again in print, but it's still a problem. You can't go into this sort of historical context without sacrificing a lot of space, and there's not a lot of space to be had. And then there's this sort of mentality in the 24-hour news cycle where we say, if it bleeds, it leads, right? And so to apply that to sex work and sex trafficking, it's really difficult to explain what sex trafficking is. It's been used as a buzzword that for so long that just really skates over everything. There is no nuance to it, and less so. Like, you hear about trafficking. Everybody knows human trafficking is bad. Everybody knows that prostitution is linked to human trafficking in a lot of ways in our society, but nobody knows how or why or what happens. I grew up with a bunch of guys who the running joke was they went down to whorehouses in Tijuana and they bought women. And I thought it was a joke for a long time because what else would it be? But then I found out it wasn't. And they would brag about it. Eventually I started being just horrified. It was like, oh yeah, you know, I had two 15-year-olds like, you know, on top of me. And I thought, good God, these women or these girls they're not doing this because they want to. I mean, don't they realize they're like doing the most crass sort of exploitation? And when you get down to this on the micro level, you start to be shocked and horrified. But the media sort of fails in that regard because they don't give a voice to those 15-year-olds. They just talk about human trafficking or prostitution. And it's very, very easy to dehumanize an entire group of people, or at least not have to think about what makes them human when you're dealing in buzzwords and nothing else.
She was punished. Snatched from the safety of her neighborhood and sold for sex. Sex trafficking. Powerless children sexually exploited.
Child sex victim.
She was raped, kidnapped, and had a gun put to her head. No sex, no food. Jessica was arrested and sent to juvenile hall 3 days.
And then you talk about sex trafficking and victims of trafficking, and they're just victims. They have no identity outside of being victims. They have no identity in sex work outside of being kind of kooky. So there's no middle ground. There's no looking at them as individuals. The word victim, what that means to me, it implies helplessness. It implies a permanent lack of agency. And it's really difficult to think of yourself in those terms, especially when you're individualistic and you have these ideas of yourself, and then to get pigeonholed into victim or anything else is insulting. Once upon a time, if you wanted to cross the border into the United States from Mexico, first you would cross, because there was just like a little barbed wire fence. Well, first there was nothing, and then there was a little barbed wire fence. And then there was like that wall where you could just sort of squeeze through if you were skinny, and not much else. Now it's gotten worse because it's more difficult to get across the border. And more economically minded people have started becoming polleros or coyotes. And so now they'll make a couple $1,000s, people will raise the money, and then they'll say, can you get me into Los Angeles, where my aunt is? Oh yeah, no problem. But instead, if they see the lights of the Border Patrol or they run into some kind of trouble, they'll just either kill them and write a letter to their family saying they're going to ransom them, or if they're young and cute, they'll sell them. They'll say, they'll take them back into Mexico and say, you know what, he's going to take care of you for now, and then collect more money and then go on their merry way. So a lot of these girls and boys who are younger and more trusting get sold into, basically slavery on the Tijuana side of the border because of stronger border controls.
Yeah, if they have writing they want to use directly from, that's fine. It's really open. We just wanted to have them write about something, just an aspect that they particularly want to share.
Human trafficking doesn't have any border. I mean, they do here and they do everywhere. My name is Alma Tucker, and I'm the president of Red Binacional de Corazones in Tijuana and International Network of Hearts in San Diego. We started this organization 3 years ago, and when we started, we decided to do a lot of awareness, a lot of prevention in the subject of human trafficking, and we did. But we noticed that nobody was taking direct care of victims in Tijuana and in the whole state of Baja California. We're talking about lives, the lives of so many people, mainly girls and women, that are so hurt. Then we kind of need to put ourselves in their shoes. And that is something that I always bring to the attention to all the volunteers. Then working with humans is not easy, because it takes time, more is being proved psychologically. Then if one person is victimized for 1 or 2 years, sometimes take the same time to get out of the trauma. And this is why we call our organization International Network of Hearts, because you have to get to the heart of the people to really somehow understand what those girls go through, and how important it is to take care of them, to give them opportunity. this subject is so difficult, and some people don't even want to hear about it. Because it's so hard to really to hear. Then one girl is being raped for 10, 20 times a day. Then people prefer not to hear that. It's painful. It's something, and yes, some people say this will never happen to me because my daughter is always in the house of my son, and he's in his or her room, and I know where she is, and it's no problem. And sometimes the enemy is right there in the room, through the internet, for example, through the networks. We have a lot of cases. Then they're being taken through the people. Then they don't even know them, but they trust them. And then we've been analyzing why. Why do girls trust more a stranger through the internet than their own family? And we noticed that it has to do a lot with the dynamic at home. And one of the basic needs of every human being is the need of love, the need of somebody to listen to you. And sometimes we notice then because it's a problem at home, parents are fighting, financially problem, mom and dad are working double jobs, then they feel alone. I totally understand that everybody's busy, then life is difficult, and we need to double work. But we're talking about not so much about quantity, we're talking about quality of time. If we spend the quality time that our children need, we can fix a lot of the problem.
Como un día sin el sol, como una noche sin estrellas. Así quiero dejar mi pasado atrás. Así quiero sanar el cuchillo con el cuchillo profundo, sacando los gusanos que me comen el alma. A mis 8 años fui abusada por mi papá, maestro y un amigo de mi papá. Yo tenía miedo de denunciar a mi papá porque tenía miedo de destruir a mi familia.
The process of the persecution is not easy at all. Takes time and takes a lot of memories. Every time they know they had to be in court and they had to face their predators, somebody then hurt them, then we had to prepare them once we know they had to face. And it's not easy because we have cases then the mom was involved, for example, and she has to face them, and the mother in their face said, you liar, I never did that, or I never knew about what's going on. And it's difficult because once it's their mother, and it's one second is who hurt them, and they're minors, and then it's like their whole world in that moment fall apart. They come back sometimes totally in shock because things don't go right, and we're not surprised anymore, but for our anger, many times the judges, they're not sensitive to this, and they confront the criminals with the minors, and then it's very difficult for them because they had to face somebody that they're terrified, and they're afraid that it's going to be consequences, somebody's going to be hurt, and they're just child.
Para llegar aquí estuve en un lugar donde la gente me trató muy mal, donde me humillaron, donde todas mis ilusiones estaban muertas, donde no quería vivir. Era toda una niña cuando me explotaron, que por amenazas nunca me atreví a denunciar.
Bueno, pues de hecho lo que me pasó a mí, y yo estaba como, pues sufría de maltrato. Siempre pues me quedaba callada, no le decía a nadie pues.
Miren, la vida es difícil de enfrentar tantas cosas que pasan, pero siempre va a haber un momento para cambiar.
Este mensaje que les quiero decir es que no se queden callados, que rompan esas cadenas.
La trata sí existe, yo la vivo. Si alguien te está tocando a los lugares que no deben, denuncia, no calles, recuerda. Lo tuyo es tuyo y de nadie más.
Hay que enfrentar todos aquellos problemas para poder decir basta ya.
I am creating a documentary on behalf of survivors to educate the general public on the urgent need of support for these youth. I also hope to bring awareness to youth on the many different ways that we all can positively influence our global community.
War, really. You know, I'm very motivated when I see youth people care about this subject. In my career, I've been finding then the youth people, they're doers. They're just not here and do nothing. I've been working with students from high schools, and they open the doors for me, and I go and talk and then give them testimonies, and they don't doubt once to, okay, let's do something about it. Let's collect groceries. Let's do campaigns. Let's act and do forums and express how we feel about this. And we don't want no more girls get involved. They hear it, and they want to make the difference. They want to not only hear because I guess they put themselves in their shoes of these girls, and they wanna, like I said in the beginning, they wanna give a voice. They wanna give a voice to all these girls that they can. And you know what? Our girls knows in the Casa del Carmen. They know that these people are outside and they care. When they arrived to this house, they used to cry and said, because they notice how people come and give them time or give them classes of Zumba, classes of self-defense, cooking, sewing. And one time I remember one of them told me, Alma, they don't even know us. And they care for me. And my own family don't care, but these people care for me. And they cry and they feel the love, you know. And yes, we told them, it's a lot of people out there, then they really care for you guys.